I sat up too fast. Pain shot through my chest. The nurse pushed me back gently, but her eyes didn't meet mine. "Just watch this," she whispered. Placing the phone in my lap, the screen lit up. I recognized the porch before I recognized the voice. Day 3 of freedom. Madeline said, her camera angled wide, her tone sweet and smug. "We're turning this crusty old farm into something profitable." She spun the phone to show the fields. My fields. The swing I built with my husband. The wood-stained bench where I used to read when Ethan was small. Gone quiet behind her voice like props in a background no one asked for. The nurse stepped away, but I didn't look up. I tapped the screen again. Re-watched the clip. Her nails were painted bright red. She was wearing one of my scarves. "And don't worry," she chirped to the lens, "the old lady's still in the hospital. So we've got time." My hand clenched around the sheet. Heart monitors beeped faster. I forced myself to breathe slow. That scarf was in my bedroom drawer. She'd been in my bedroom. A soft knock. Ethan stepped in with a cup of coffee and a look too cheerful for the room. "Hey, Mom," he said. "You're awake. Good timing." He didn't hug me. He never asked how I slept. "We've been doing some planning." He went on, placing the coffee on the tray like he was presenting something earned. "You'll be happy. We've got people interested in the land." I stared at him. "It's for the best," he said. "The upkeep, the taxes, it's too much. You need to focus on healing." He patted my leg like I was a dog. "I'll handle everything." He smiled. "You don't need to worry about the details." I didn't speak. I just looked at him. His face flushed, like maybe he'd hoped I'd cry or fight. I didn't. I nodded. That's all. Back in the hallway, I heard him answer a call. "She's fine. Looked tired," I told her. The door clicked shut. Later that night, I asked the nurse for paper and a pen. My hand trembled, but I made a list. Names, accounts, things they wouldn't know to check. I folded the page and slid it under my pillow. I kept the video. Emailed it to myself. Saved a backup. That was their mistake, doing it so publicly. They thought I didn't matter. They thought I wouldn't wake up. I sipped the cold coffee Ethan brought. Weak brew. No sugar. The next morning, the doctor asked if I felt strong enough to stand. I said yes. I meant it. By the 3rd day, they let me sit by the window. The view overlooked the side parking lot. A white sedan pulled in. Madeline got out laughing into her phone, swinging a fabric roll under her arm. Wallpaper samples. Behind her, Ethan followed with a clipboard. She walked like she owned something. I touched the scar beneath my gown, still fresh, still healing. But I could walk, and I could wait. They didn't know I had the deed. They didn't know I had the mortgage. They didn't even know where the safe was hidden. Let them build their future on top of me. I'd be here when it cracked. I pulled open the front door myself. It stuck. Swollen wood. I braced with my hip and shoved. The frame groaned. The air inside smelled like paint and something floral, fake heavy. Not mine. Madeline looked up from the living room couch. "Oh," she said flatly, "you're home." Ethan stood near the fireplace. He turned like he'd been caught. "I was going to call," he said. "You were discharged faster than they thought." I stepped inside, dragging the tote bag with my discharge papers. No one offered to help. He walked toward me slowly. I waited for a hug. Nothing. "We went ahead and started the process," he said. "It's for your own good, really." I looked at the wall behind him. The portrait of my father was gone, replaced by one of those generic farmhouse prints. A vase of cotton branches sat where his ashes used to rest. "You need rest," Ethan went on. "Less responsibility. You shouldn't be worrying about this place anymore." Madeline didn't look up. "We've got an offer already," he said. "Good one." Madeline's contact from her networking circle found a buyer. Young couple. Modern vision. I said nothing. He waited. I nodded once. That was enough. His shoulders dropped like that was permission. He didn't notice how tight I held my tote bag. He didn't see the white envelope sticking out of the side pocket, my lawyer's contact card, and a copy of the land use clause Madeline clearly hadn't read. "Great," he said, voice bright. "I'll move forward." I walked past him into the kitchen. It had changed. My kettle was gone. So was the spice rack. A basket of eucalyptus and fake lemons sat where the coffee tin used to be. I sat down slowly. My chest pulled, stitches tugged. They didn't offer me a drink. Madeline finally spoke. "We're clearing out the barn next week. The buyers want to see it empty." She never said, "Please," never asked if I needed anything. She was dressed like she had a photo shoot lip gloss, crisp jeans heels too sharp for this floor. "I'll stay out of your way," I said. Ethan smiled, relieved. That's the spirit. Later, I climbed the stairs. One slow step at a time. My room had been repainted, lavender. My quilt gone. The bed new. I turned, opened the guest room by the laundry nook. One towel, one pillow, no drawer space. I didn't complain. I laid the envelope on the nightstand and turned off the light. That night, I called my lawyer from the bathroom fan, running to cover the sound. I gave him the parcel number, confirmed the clause, asked him to prepare the hold. "Do you want to notify them yet?" he asked. "No," I said. "Not yet." In the morning, Ethan was gone. Madeline was filming in the backyard. I watched her from the kitchen window, prancing in boots she'd never worked in. She twirled by the chicken coop. They'd never cleaned it. She squealed when a hen flapped near her leg. The video would be live by noon. I poured myself weak coffee. She'd bought the wrong filters. It tasted like water with regrets. I sat down at the table and opened the binder labeled Estate, Personal. Inside a copy of the deed, a map of property lines, and a sealed document marked Lien Transfer Pending. I traced the edge of the signature line with my finger. It wouldn't take much now. Just time. Just patience. Outside, Madeline laughed as the wind took her hat. I grabbed the last box from the closet shelf. Dust stung my throat. My fingers trembled from the weight, not just of the cardboard, but what was inside a folded quilt, a framed flag, my husband's high school yearbook. All of it balanced in my arms like it still meant something. At the bottom of the stairs, I stopped. Madeline stood by the front door holding a garbage bag wide open. She didn't flinch when I stepped closer. Didn't ask what I was carrying. She just looked at the box and then at the bag. "Clutter," she said. "We're going minimalist." She reached into the box without asking. Pulled out the flag, no pause. Tossed it into the bag. Then the yearbook. Then the worn baby shoes I'd kept from Ethan's first steps. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My chest felt like someone had placed a brick on top of the scar. She held up the quilt. My wedding quilt. My mother stitched the corners. "This one's moldy," she said. "Smells like an attic." She dropped it on top of the pile. I gripped the edges of the box tighter. My wrists burned. Ethan walked in, holding coffee from town. Madeline turned to him. "She's sorting old junk," she said, smiling. "We'll finally have clean lines in here." He laughed. "Mom, you sure don't want to just let some of it go?" I stared at him. He sipped his drink. Didn't wait for an answer. They kept talking while I backed away. I stepped into the hallway, one foot after another, until the door blocked my view. I carried the box to the garage, set it on the shelf behind the rake. It wouldn't survive the summer heat, but I needed to move it anyway. No one followed. Later, I opened the linen cabinet. Empty shelves, new towels, white branded stiff. The embroidered ones from my wedding registry were gone. In the kitchen, I reached for my recipe book. It wasn't there. In its place sat a white ceramic tray with lemons painted on it. Madeline breezed by with a phone to her ear. "No, we're going full clean aesthetic. Vintage stuff is so heavy." She didn't look at me. I went to the porch. The swing was gone. Only 2 rusted chains hung from the beam. My husband's tools were no longer on the hooks. The barn door had a keypad now. They'd changed the code. I stood there a long time, until my legs ached and the sun dropped past the corn. That night, I went back to the guest room. The hallway light stayed on. Voices drifted through the floor, laughs, wine glasses, clinking a playlist with bass. I laid flat eyes open, staring at the ceiling. They hadn't asked where I was sleeping. They hadn't noticed what they'd taken. They hadn't asked if I wanted anything back. In the morning, I moved the box again, this time into the shed behind the silo. It wasn't safe, but it was mine. The envelope from under the floorboard still rested under the loose board by the door. I hadn't touched it since the day I'd come home. But I would. Soon. I grabbed the doorknob and twisted. Locked. My bedroom door, the one with the white frame and scuff marks at the bottom from Ethan's childhood boots, was locked. I knocked once. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Madeline's voice drifted through. Recording. I waited. Nothing. The door opened 10 minutes later. She stood there, barefoot, holding a ring light and a glass of green liquid. Her phone sat on a tripod facing the window. "I'm doing a morning routine shoot," she said, brushing past me like I wasn't there. "Natural light up here is amazing." I stepped inside. Or tried to. The bed was gone. So were the dresser, the curtains, the cedar chest. In their place, a yoga mat, 2 cube shelves with face oils and props, and a neon wall sign that read, "Breathe." I stared at the wall where my wedding photo used to hang. Now it was covered with a boho tapestry and a slogan, "Create your peace." "This is where I work now," she added. "The downstairs is too echoey. Also, aesthetic-wise, this gives me softer content." I didn't move. She reached behind me, closed the door, and smiled politely. "You still have the guest room, right?" She was halfway down the stairs before I remembered to breathe. That night, I opened the door to the guest room by the garage. The air was cold. The vent didn't work well. No closet. A plastic dresser. No hooks on the wall. A mattress that smelled faintly of cardboard and mothballs. I set my things on the floor. Later, I heard Ethan coming home. I waited until the hallway was quiet. Then I stepped out and found him in the kitchen. "You gave her my room," I said. He froze. "She needed a space to work," he said carefully. "Just temporary." "You didn't ask." He didn't meet my eyes. "She thought you were fine in the guest room." "She thought." He swallowed. "We didn't mean anything by it. It's just space." I nodded once and walked away. He didn't follow. The next morning, Madeline posted a photo from the upstairs window. The caption read, "Manifesting my life from the room I claimed with love and lavender." My room. Claimed. I went outside, opened the barn door with the emergency key I'd kept hidden. Inside, everything was where I'd left it. Old furniture, broken tools, wooden crates, and the strongbox I'd buried beneath the second stall. The key still fit. Inside, the deed to the land, the backup copy of the mortgage contract, a sealed envelope marked with Madeline's maiden name and her parents' address, all still untouched. I locked the box and put it back. Later that week, Madeline hosted a virtual house tour online. Her voice floated from the upstairs studio. She described the farmhouse as a generational burden we're turning into a blank slate. I stood in the hallway below, listening to the creak of the floorboards, the echo of her laugh. I didn't stop her. I just waited. I shoved the stall door open. Dust rose in the air, thick and bitter. The barn smelled of hay, long gone sour. My boots crunched on the floorboards as I crossed to the far corner, past the rusted plow and the stacks of empty feed bags no one bothered to throw away. I knelt. My knees ached, but I pressed through it. I found the warped plank by touch, loose on one side. I pried it up with the claw of an old hammer. The sound was sharp, wood-splitting metal dragging. Beneath the envelope still waited. Brown paper tied with twine, The edges curled, but it was whole. I pulled it out, brushed it clean. Inside, the original deed, my name printed bold. 2 contracts folded, carefully signed years ago in a lawyer's office they never knew I visited. And the paper that mattered most, a lien transfer, a mortgage deed. Madeline's parents' names at the top, my initials at the bottom. I read the numbers again, the arrears, the deadlines, 4 months behind when I bought it out. 2 months left before it would default. They had no idea who held it. I pressed the papers back into the envelope and tied it shut again. My hands shook not from weakness, but from the quiet weight of it. I slid the board back into place and hammered it once to keep it steady. No one would know it had been lifted. When I stood, my legs wobbled. I grabbed the stall wall, steadying myself. I thought of Ethan's laugh at the kitchen table, Madeline's glossy voice calling my life a burden, her followers praising her new vision while she filmed in my bedroom. They didn't ask what I still owned. They assumed there was nothing left. I carried the hammer back to the shelf and hung it. On the walk back to the house, I watched the porch. Madeline sat there with her phone talking into the camera about rural simplicity. She didn't notice me. I went inside, poured myself a cup of the thin coffee she bought, and sat at the table. My scar throbbed, but my breathing stayed calm. The papers were safe again. Hidden, waiting. All I needed now was time, and I had more of that than they thought. I slammed the screen door shut behind me. Ethan looked up from the dining table where blueprint papers were spread out like a battlefield. He flinched. "Hey, sorry. Didn't hear you coming." I walked closer. Papers everywhere. Sketches, budgets, a glossy pitch deck labeled Farm to Tech Reimagining Rural Spaces. Madeline's handwriting curved across the margins, hearts, hashtags, big ideas scribbled in pink marker. Ethan cleared his throat. "Okay, so I've been meaning to talk to you. Properly." He pulled out a chair for me. I didn't sit. "We've got interest," he said, tapping the folder. "Real interest." Couple of guys Madeline met through her podcast circuit. One's in solar, the others into wellness retreats. I kept my arms crossed. They want land, space, something raw they can transform. He smiled like it was good news. "They said our place, your place, feels authentic." I nodded slowly. "And what do they want to do with it? Flip it," he said. "Not in the usual sense. Modernize, renovate, turn it into a hybrid space. You know, farm charm meets smart living. Install vertical gardens, maybe a studio barn. Host digital detox weekends." I stared at him. He kept going. "It's scalable, Mom. Not some dead wheat field. We're talking about a brand, a movement, I repeated. They'll handle the costs up front. We just need to clear the title and make sure everything's clean. Then we partner or sell outright. Depends on the offer." "And what happens to me?" He paused. "You'd stay involved in spirit," he said carefully. "Your name's still on a few things for now, but we'd restructure that. You'd be honorary. Kind of a legacy figure." I didn't laugh. I didn't move. "I know it sounds a little abrupt," he said, rubbing his neck. "But this is a good thing. We're not doing this to hurt you. We're trying to build something." I leaned forward. "You already started pitching this while I was in the hospital." His face twitched. He didn't deny it. I turned the papers toward me. On one page, they'd drawn over the silo. Labeled it Detox Pod A. I pushed the folder back to him. He sighed. "It's not personal, Mom. We're just trying to make it all make sense for the future." I walked out without another word. In the hallway, Madeline passed by in leggings and a tank top, carrying 2 pressed juices. She didn't slow down. "You'll love what we're doing with the shed," she said. "We're calling it the Root Space. The Root Space." I closed the door to the guest room behind me, sat on the bed, waited until their voices blurred into nothing. Then I pulled out the envelope I'd moved into the drawer the night before. They wanted the property clear. They wanted the name cleaned off the title. They had no idea what that title really said. I opened the envelope, laid the documents out flat, and circled one line in red ink, lien tied to third-party residential mortgage owner, Brant Corliss. A. I folded the paper again. Tighter this time. They thought they were building the future. I was still holding the foundation. I set the table in silence. They didn't ask me to, but the plates were already out my grandmother's china, the ones I'd boxed carefully 3 years ago, when I thought Ethan might appreciate tradition. Madeline laid out name cards like it was a wedding. One of them said, Mrs. Brant, but she placed it at the far end, next to the pantry door. Half a seat, no view. Just stay quiet during the pitch, she said, as she walked past. It'll go smoother if there's no confusion about ownership. I held the edge of the chair. She didn't stop. Just floated to the fridge, took out a bottle of sparkling water, and winked at her reflection in the oven door. Ethan didn't look up from his laptop. The guests arrived just before 6. 2 men, both in fitted sport coats, one with a drone case, the other holding a branded tote bag with some startup name I didn't catch. Welcome to the future of land, Madeline said. They laughed. She kissed them both on the cheek like they were cousins. The taller one filmed her walking through the kitchen. I stayed in my chair. No one introduced me. Madeline launched in. She used words like potential equity, rural modern hybrid, and lifestyle scalability. She pointed at the old barn through the window and called it transformative canvas. Ethan smiled and passed around leaflets. He didn't mention the mortgage. He didn't mention the deed. He didn't mention me. They served the casserole on my grandmother's china, poured wine into the crystal I'd wrapped in towels the day my mother died. Every clink sounded like glass cracking. Halfway through dinner, the man with the drone asked, "And your mom lives here too?" Ethan hesitated. Madeline smiled. She's part of the story. A little nostalgia helps round out the brand. I looked at her. She didn't flinch. I picked up my fork and ate without a word. They toasted to clean slates and bold futures. I drank water from a jelly jar. The pitch ran long. They reviewed footage, took photos of the pantry, discussed converting the mudroom into a dry sauna. No one asked where I slept. When they left, Madeline closed the door and let out a giddy shriek. "We nailed it," she said. "They loved the aesthetic. You could feel it." Ethan laughed. "That barn shot with the golden hour light, perfect." They clinked glasses. I stood and cleared the plates. No one stopped me. Madeline glanced over. "Oh, and careful with the gold-rimmed ones. They're antiques." I scrubbed them by hand, one by one. Let them drip dry on the towel I'd used to carry them here years ago. By midnight, they were upstairs. I sat at the empty table, looked at the place card with my name on it, then tore it clean down the middle. No one noticed. No one came back down. I turned off the light, made sure the door was locked, then walked to the guest room. My reflection passed in the hallway mirror. I looked like a shadow. I pushed the glass door open hard enough for the bell to jingle twice. The banker looked up, startled, then smiled that rehearsed, syrupy smile. "Mrs. Brant, I didn't expect to see you." I sat down across from him, my purse heavy on my lap. "I want to close an account," I said, flatly. His eyebrows lifted. "Oh, may I ask why I don't like leaving things half open?" He typed, slowly, stalling. "You've had this account for quite some time." A tidy balance. "Are you sure?" I slid the folder across the desk. "While you're checking, I want information on a mortgage." "This address." He glanced down, scanned the paper, and adjusted his tie. His face changed. Not much, but enough. "They're 4 months behind," he said, voice dropping. "It won't be hard." I leaned back. My scar tugged against my blouse, but I kept my face steady. "Transfer it. To me. Of course, he said quickly, printing forms. It'll clear faster if you sign today. I picked up the pen. My fingers shook a little, not from nerves, but from the weight of it, inking my name where theirs had already failed. Line after line, signature after signature. The paper pile grew. Each one tightened the noose they didn't even know existed. He cleared his throat when I finished. This gives you full control of the lien. Payments, defaults, terms, all yours. I nodded. Send their next bill under my LLC. He hesitated. Do you want them notified? No. The word came out sharp final. He shifted in his chair. Understood. I gathered the papers, slipped them into the folder, and stood. His smile returned thinner now, less certain. If you need further assistance, Mrs. Brandt, we're here. I walked out into the heat. My chest ached from the effort, but the air felt lighter. At the crosswalk, I paused. Across the street, a boutique window displayed new kitchenware, bright, shiny, sterile. Inside, I saw Madeline's reflection in my mind, talking into her phone, laughing, spinning her lies about a legacy burden. They thought I was too tired to fight, too old to matter, but I'd just bought their safety net. By the time I pulled into the driveway, Madeline's car was already there. Music thumped from upstairs. She was filming again, her voice rising and falling in fake enthusiasm. Ethan sat on the porch, scrolling his phone. He looked up and smiled like nothing had happened. Good day out, he asked. Productive, I said, walking past him. In the kitchen, I poured myself a cup of coffee, black and bitter. The mug was chipped, the handle rough against my palm. I held it steady anyway. From upstairs came Madeline's voice, lilting and false. When you manifest, the universe provides. I carried my coffee to the table and opened the folder. The documents stared back at me. Names, numbers, deadlines, all of it mine now. I traced the signatures with my finger, then closed the folder tight. The clock ticked in the quiet. They had no idea the countdown had already started. I shut the bedroom door and locked it. Then I picked up the phone. First call my attorney, the old one, the one who helped me write the trust when Ethan was still in high school and Madeline hadn't even shown up with her perfect teeth and Pinterest quotes. He picked up after 2 rings. Corliss. It's time, I said. I need you to activate the clause. A pause. Then, you sure completely? He didn't push. The farm, the secondary lien, and the transfer papers, all still intact. I'll start the paperwork. Quietly. Nothing triggers until you say. Good. I hung up. Second call the property assessor. I kept it short. I need a fresh evaluation on the home and land. Don't notify the current occupants. Any specific reason, family estate planning. The man on the other end sounded half asleep. We'll send someone out. Discreetly. Thank you. I gave him a direct address to mail the report, my P.O. box 2 towns over. They didn't know about that one. Third call the county inspector. I didn't give a name, just reported what they'd done. Hi, I'm a concerned neighbor, I said. Voice low. There's been construction structural without permits. Interior wall demo. Electric rerouting, water system tampering. Might be worth a look. He asked for details. I gave him just enough. The house, he asked. Farmhouse. North Road. You'll know it when you see the glass herb wall. He grunted. We'll log it. Maybe send someone by. I thanked him. Hung up and slid the phone into the drawer. I hadn't signed a thing. Not one document tied to my name, but the trail was building. Layer by layer. I reached into the folder and pulled out the checklist my lawyer gave me years ago. I started checking boxes. Deed retained. Mortgage purchased. LLC dormant, but valid. Power of attorney revoked. Estate trigger prepped. Notice of intent pending. Each mark steadied my hand. Outside, I heard Madeline shout for Ethan. Something about the herb planters arriving late. She wanted to start filming before golden hour. Her voice pitched high and impatient. I moved to the small writing desk, opened a second drawer, and pulled out a fresh notepad. I began drafting a new inventory, what was still mine, what had been removed, what they'd touched. Then I opened the folder one more time, removed one clean sheet of photocopy of their marriage license. I wrote a note beneath it, mortgage holder, mother-in-law of borrower's spouse. Conflict of interest not declared. Lien enforcement eligibility valid. I placed that sheet at the top. At dinner, I didn't speak. Ethan made burgers. Madeline showed off her microgreen bun alternative. They talked around me like I was the ghost of someone who used to matter. I chewed slowly, swallowed, nodded once when Ethan asked if the meat was tender. Back in the guest room, I filed every sheet in order, slipped the whole set into a fireproof envelope, and locked it in the bottom drawer. Then I turned out the light. They had no clue the war had already started. I pulled out the old file labeled 2007 swap agreement. The paper was thin, curled at the edges, but the signatures were clear. My husband's, their father's. Witnessed, notarized, valid. A land swap. 5 acres traded clean for an interest-free lien, but it wasn't clean. The terms were handwritten on the back in ink faded to brown. This lien remains enforceable if the original homestead is altered, sold, or repurposed without mutual consent. I sat back and read that line 3 times. That original homestead wasn't just my land. It was theirs too, the modest house Madeline's parents still lived in, just outside of town. The one they used as collateral when Ethan and Madeline got married. They never finished paying. I had let it go quiet, let the paperwork sleep. Until now. Now Madeline was trying to sell a property tied to it. Without my consent. No disclosure. No awareness, probably. But the clause still held. And I still held the original lien. If she sold my farm, her parents lost their house. I folded the document carefully and tucked it back into the fireproof envelope. Then I opened the second file, my lawyer's letter, the one stamped with a "Do Not Activate" sticker. I peeled the sticker off. It came away clean. Downstairs, I could hear music blasting some instrumental track Madeline liked to use in her videos, soft piano, over fake bird calls. I picked up the phone and dialed my attorney again. "It's confirmed," I said. "Clause is active the second she lists the property. Her parents' lien attaches automatically." He let out a low whistle. "She doesn't know, no." "You want me to notify the county clerk?" "Not yet. But the moment they file a listing, it becomes a matter of public record. And when it does, I want the lien recorded that same day." He paused. "You're going to let her walk straight into it?" "No," I said. "I'm going to let her run." I hung up and sat still for a long time. The silence in that room wasn't peace, it was precision. Years of quiet patience of letting things rot just long enough to become leverage. They'd never thought to ask where the lien ended. Never imagined that the deal their parents made years ago tied their lives to mine. That their whole renovation dream, their brand, their pitch deck, it stood on borrowed land. And I was the lender. Later that evening, Ethan came into the kitchen, holding a notepad. He looked proud. "We've got 2 buyers circling," he said. "They want to visit next week." I nodded. Madeline floated in behind him. "We're so close," she beamed. "Once this place is out of our hands, we can finally move forward." With what I asked. "Our real life," she said without blinking. I rinsed my coffee mug and dried it with the dish towel. "Let me know when you need me out of the house for the showing." Ethan smiled, relieved. "Thanks, Mom." That means a lot. They left the room chattering. I walked to the hallway, opened the drawer, and took out the sealed envelope again. Labeled it, "To be filed day of listing." Then I placed it by the front door beneath my umbrella, where I wouldn't forget. I scrubbed the pot until the metal shone. Diced carrots, peeled potatoes. Let the broth simmer low and slow. I wore Henry's old flannel, the one with the elbow patches, the one he always wore when the wind came in sharp from the west field. Madeline sniffed when she walked into the kitchen. Soup. It's what I had. She blinked, then shrugged. Smells fine. Ethan came in next, pulled off his jacket, set his phone on the table. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just dinner. They sat. I served. 1 ladle each. Bread on a paper napkin. Water in glass jars. No wine. No place cards. I placed the small black recorder behind the napkin holder. Already rolling. Madeline dug in first. We had a call with the Palm Springs couple, she said between bites. They're obsessed with the barn footage. Said it's raw but rich. Can you believe that Ethan grinned? Told you the lighting was everything. They want an in-person tour before they commit, she added. I said we'd host them next week. I'll make pressed juice, maybe some clean snacks, show them we're the real deal. I sipped slowly, kept my face calm. They're even offering to pay part of the closing up front, Ethan said. Cash. That could help us secure the renovation loan early, get moving faster. Madeline leaned back, arms crossed like she'd just won something. We're basically running the whole thing now. All the emails, the contacts, the deals, everything flows through us. That's how business works. I nodded. You've certainly been busy. She smiled. It's what you always wanted, right? For Ethan to be successful. For the farm to finally become something. Ethan added, We're modernizing your legacy, Mom. It's a compliment, really. They ate like winners. Drank their water like it was wine. I broke my bread. Dipped it. Said nothing. They didn't ask where I'd been that day. Didn't notice the envelope missing from beside the door. I think once it sells, Madeline went on, we'll rent a cabin in Sedona. Just to reset. Then maybe look for land out west. Somewhere new. I raised an eyebrow. And your parents? They'll manage, she said lightly. We might move them into something smaller. They've had a good run, but it's not exactly sustainable. Ethan laughed. She's been planning this for years, you know. She always said this place was wasted potential. I glanced down at the recorder, still blinking red behind the napkins. They didn't see it. I stood and collected the bowls. Their spoons clinked. Thanks for dinner, Ethan said. I missed this weirdly. Madeline added, You should wear that shirt more often. Makes you look alive. I nodded again, took the dishes to the sink, and let the water run hot. They got up, kissed each other loudly in the hallway, and disappeared upstairs. I turned off the water, walked back, picked up the recorder, played back the last 40 minutes, every word crisp and careless. Then I backed it up to a flash drive, slid it into an envelope, and placed it beside my coat. It was almost time. I ironed my blouse in silence. No frills, no perfume, just clean lines and closed buttons. Madeline had printed glossy invitations. Sip and sign, they said, with peach borders and fake calligraphy. She passed them out like party favors, even left one at my door. Hope you can make it, she'd said. You're kind of a historic figure now, like symbolic. I'd smiled, nodded. Said nothing. By 5, the backyard was full. Lawn chairs, string lights, folding tables with tiny pens tied to twine. One of them read, Dream big. Ethan greeted guests like a local politician. Madeline floated in white linen and bare feet. They'd printed mock contracts for decoration. Phase 1 new chapter begins. Balloons bobbed near the barn. Music played softly from a curated playlist. I stood near the lemonade table. No one offered me a glass. Madeline laughed too loud and waved her cup. We're making history. At 6:30, Madeline raised her voice and tapped a spoon on a wine glass. Everyone. If we could gather near the big table, we're doing the ceremonial signing, chairs scraped. Phones came out. Guests lined up excited to film the moment. They handed her the first pen. She posed, tilted her head, signed the mock contract like it was a marriage certificate. People clapped. Someone whooped. Ethan followed, grinning. Here we go. He scrawled his name across the page with a flourish. A woman next to me whispered, "Such a lovely way to honor the past." The photographer called for one with the matriarch. They pulled me close arms light over my shoulders like I was a guest speaker. Flash, smile, flash. I didn't blink. Afterward, Madeline handed out branded coasters. Future of Land in gold foil. I slid one into my purse. As guests wandered back to their seats, I slipped toward the house. Past the patio, through the kitchen, up the stairs. In my room, no, the guest room. I opened the locked drawer and removed the envelope. Inside the flash drive, the deed, the lien clause, the recorded timeline. Downstairs, laughter swelled. Someone popped a bottle of Prosecco. I pulled out one last file. The county inspector's letter had arrived that morning, folded, sharp-stamped official. It listed violations, improper demolition, unlicensed plumbing reroutes, and 2 noise complaints. I tucked it with the others. Then walked back down. In the hallway, I passed Madeline's oversized print, her and Ethan, in the golden hour barn shot. She called it their founding photo. I paused, straightened the frame, and kept walking. I signed the paper without blinking. Madeline hovered beside me, recording with one hand, holding a champagne flute in the other. Smile a little Corliss. This is a big moment. I smiled. Just enough. She waved the page toward Ethan. It's official, babe. She finally gave us her blessing. He took it like a diploma. Kissed her forehead. Told you she'd come around. The paper was worthless. A decoy. Permission to proceed with a non-binding structural redesign plan, language vague enough to please the internet, soft enough to mean nothing in court. Madeline wasted no time. She posted the video within the hour. After months of resistance, Ethan's mom finally said yes. This farm is changing forever, and we couldn't be more grateful. Generational healing, farm flip dreams. It got views. I got silence. Back upstairs, I took the real documents from the drawer and slipped them into a plain manila envelope. No stickers, no bows, just dates, signatures, legal terms. Real ones. The lien release form, the mortgage reassertion, the land swap clause, the video transcript, the county letter, the bank's timestamp. I sealed it, placed it in a pre-addressed box, and dropped it off at the post office before sunset. Priority. Tracked. Signed upon delivery. That evening, Madeline knocked on my door. I let her in. We'll start shooting interior walkthroughs tomorrow. Can you stay out of frame? She asked. You know, keep the aesthetic clean. I nodded. Of course. She hesitated. And thanks. For earlier. I know we've had friction, but this really helps. She smiled. Soft fake. She didn't trust me, not completely, but the attention had fed her enough to pretend. I walked her to the door. Downstairs, Ethan adjusted the lighting in the hallway. She's scheduling an interview with a regional blogger, he said. Once the listing goes live, we'll be unstoppable. Madeline beamed. Think how far we've come. From old wallpaper and dusty curtains to this. I looked around. They'd gutted the house, but not the roots. Not the deeds. Not the law. That night, I sat on the porch with my coffee and watched the lights in the barn flicker on. They were filming again, creating content, selling futures. The screen didn't show the floorboards they never replaced, the nails they never sealed, the cracks in the foundation they never checked. I watched until they turned off the camera. Then I stood, walked back inside. I handed Ethan the lighter fluid. He didn't say, "Thank you." Just doused the woodpile like a man claiming victory. Sparks flew as the first flames caught. Guests clapped. Someone passed around hard cider in mismatched mason jars. The fire glowed bright. Too bright for the cold still clinging to the night air. Madeline dragged a Bluetooth speaker onto the porch. Music spilled over the yard, loud and sharp, drowning the crickets. People laughed, toasted, danced in boots not meant for dirt. Ethan raised his bottle. To the next chapter, he called. To the next investment, someone shouted back. He swayed a little. Madeline steadied him. Someone asked about the farm's history, when it was built, what it had grown. Ethan shrugged. Honestly, it came with her. He slurred, jerking his thumb toward me. The group chuckled. She's like the antique no one wants to throw out, just sits there collecting dust. I didn't flinch. He laughed harder. Maybe we'll stick a plaque on her rocker. Historic fixture. Louder laughter. Madeline didn't stop him. She sipped her cider and smiled, eyes darting between phones and firelight. I stood, walked past the folding chairs, past the tiki torches into the house. No one followed. Inside, the kitchen smelled like burnt sugar and lemon rinds. I turned off the overhead light. Stood in the dark. Let the glow from the porch flicker in through the window. Upstairs in the guest room, I opened the drawer and took out one photo. Henry and I, 26 years ago, standing by the fence in our work boots. Dust on our sleeves, sweat on our collars. We'd just finished planting the new line of apple trees. He was smiling. I was tired, but we looked real. I slipped the photo into my coat pocket, then opened the hallway closet and pulled out the small fireproof box. Inside, my birth certificate, Henry's will, and a copy of the title transfer with my name circled in blue ink. I took the box. The photo. Nothing else. Back outside, the music was louder. A woman screamed as her marshmallow caught fire. Ethan howled, laughing. I walked past them. No one noticed. At the edge of the driveway, I looked back once. The barn lights flickered. The smoke curled. My son danced while guests toasted over my life like it was a relic worth roasting. I kept walking. I walked into the council hall with the file tucked under my arm. No sequins. No polished shoes. Just my husband's flannel under a plain black coat. The place was crowded. Tables lined with brochures, candidates shaking hands, local business owners buying goodwill with free wine. A string quartet sawed through a hymn no one listened to. Madeline stood near the dais, champagne glass, high Ethan at her side. Her linen dress caught the lights' camera crews orbiting her like she'd already won. Tonight, she announced, voice-pitched high, for the room we celebrate transition. Renewal. A farm reborn into opportunity. Applause rippled. She smiled, soaking it in. I stayed near the back until the council president stepped up to the mic. And now, before we conclude, Mrs. Corliss Brandt would like to share a few words. Mrs. Brandt, the stage is yours. Madeline's face twitched. She hadn't planned for this. I walked, slow, steady, set the file down on the podium. My daughter-in-law has been busy, I said. My voice carried stronger than I'd expected. She's shown you videos, called my house a museum, called me a burden. Murmurs spread. Madeline's hand clamped around Ethan's wrist. I opened the file, pulled the first paper free. This is the lien filed in 2007. It ties the Davis property, the one her parents live in, to my farm. Any sale without my consent strips them of their home. Gasps. Someone's glass clinked against the floor. I pulled another. This is the mortgage. Overdue. 4 months behind. Quietly purchased by me last month. The council president leaned closer, reading as I held it up. His eyes widened. I lifted the recorder next. Pressed play. Ethan's voice spilled out, slurred but clear. She's just the antique that came with the house. The room went still. Madeline lunged forward. This isn't the place. I raised my hand. She froze. I spoke into the mic. You call me useless. You call me trailer trash. You call me dead weight. But I hold the deeds. I hold the lien. And I hold the mortgage under your parents' roof. I slid the last page across the podium. You tried to erase me, but you forgot the land remembers who owns it. Silence pressed against the walls. Heavy, dense. I looked straight at her. She called me a burden. I call this repossession. No one clapped. No one spoke. The silence was louder than applause. I closed the file, tucked it under my arm again, and stepped down from the stage. I slid the envelopes into the outgoing tray myself. No middleman, no delay. 3 days later, the phone calls began. Madeline's parents stood at their porch mailbox neighbors watching as they tore open the thick white envelopes. Foreclosure review. Payment delinquency. 30 days to respond. The letterhead carried my LLC's name in bold. David Davis called Ethan first. His voice carried even through the thin walls. "Son, what is this? Who's Anderson Ridge Holdings?" Ethan stammered. It's just some company, Dad. We'll sort it out." Carol's voice cut in sharp. "Sort it out. It says they control the lien. It says they own the debt. How is this even possible?" Madeline snatched the phone. "Don't panic. It's a scare tactic. We'll handle it." I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, listening to every word bounce down the hall. Later that afternoon, Carol herself showed up. No makeup hair unpinned the letter clutched in her hand like evidence. She didn't even look at me when she came through the door. "Ethan," she demanded, "tell me this isn't real." He read it twice, jaw tightening. Madeline grabbed it back, waved it in the air. "It's a bluff." "No way." She stopped mid-sentence, glanced at me. I didn't move. I just folded the napkin in front of me, neat, into 4 corners. Carol turned slowly, as if seeing me for the first time. This is you." I met her eyes. Calm, steady. "The papers don't lie." She blinked, lips parting, but no words coming out. Madeline pushed her toward the door. "Mom, don't listen to her. She's manipulating everyone." Carol clutched the letter tighter. Her hand shook. "If this is true," her voice trailed off. Madeline slammed the door behind her. Silence lingered, broken only by the tick of the old wall clock. Ethan finally spoke. "Mom, what did you do?" I set the folded napkin aside, rose from the table and placed the coffee pot back on its warmer. "I did what you never thought I could," Madeline hissed. "You wouldn't dare put my parents on the street." I looked at her then, not with anger, not with pity, just truth. "You put yourself there the day you called this house worthless." Ethan rubbed his face, torn between us. "There has to be another way." "There always was," I said quietly. "Respect." "But you chose ambition." The mail truck rumbled past outside, dropping more envelopes into the metal box at the end of the drive. I didn't move. Neither did they, but I knew what those next letters would say. I watched the SUV back out and turn without stopping. No wave, no call, just silence and dust. They'd pulled the plug. The investors, every single one. An email had come in that morning reply. "All given recent legal complications, we've decided not to proceed with the partnership at this time." No apology. No second offer. Ethan stood at the edge of the porch phone, limp in his hand. "They're gone," he muttered. Madeline didn't respond. She stood frozen at the bottom of the driveway, barefoot on gravel arms, locked stiff at her sides. Then she exploded. "This is your fault," she screamed. "You," she pointed at Ethan. "You said she'd sign. You said she'd give it up." She turned to me. "You smug, selfish god. You just sat there pretending to be some weak old woman while you gutted us." I didn't answer. I carried another box to the car, labeled in my own handwriting, "Photos. Keep." Ethan followed me halfway. "You're leaving." "I was never staying," I said, setting the box down in the back seat. "But this is your home." "No, it was. Until it became content." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "We can fix this. We'll buy more time. Rebuild. You don't have to go." I shut the trunk. "I do." Madeline kicked the flower pot by the porch. It shattered. This was supposed to be our future. This was everything. I stepped past her, slow, deliberate. "This was never yours to sell," I said quietly. "You just didn't believe I was still holding the keys." She sank onto the gravel, hands gripping the side of her head. Ethan didn't move. Inside, the house was mostly empty, at least for me. I'd packed what mattered. Old letters, a photo of Henry by the tractor, the chipped mug he always used, black handle glued back once in 1997. I walked through each room one last time. The floors still creaked in the same spots. The wallpaper in the upstairs hall still peeled near the window. History covered by gloss. At the front door, I paused. Madeline sat crumpled in the driveway. Ethan leaned against the porch post, staring at his shoes. I left without a word. They never saw the envelope taped under the sink. He showed up at dusk. No call, no warning, just headlights cutting across the gravel drive and his shadow on my porch. I didn't move from my chair. Ethan stood there a long time, shifting, trying to find the words. His hands jammed into his jacket pockets. "Mom?" he started, voice low. I didn't see it. I didn't see what she was doing. I thought he stopped, rubbed his face. I thought I was doing the right thing. I said nothing. He sat down across from me, hunched forward like a boy again. She pushed. Every day. Said I wasn't enough unless I gave her more. Said you were dragging us down. I believed her. His shoulders shook once. And I didn't protect you. I didn't even try. The porch boards creaked under my weight as I stood. I walked inside, left him there with his guilt, and came back with a small frame. The photo. Henry holding him in a flannel blanket, both of them younger than time now allows. I set it on the table between us. He stared at it, eyes wet. "Dad, he believed in you." "Didn't he?" I finally spoke. "Your father knew what loyalty meant? Even when it cost him." Ethan picked up the photo thumb, tracing the edge of the frame. I lost it. I lost everything chasing her approval. And now, his voice cracked. Now I don't know where to go. I leaned back, folded my hands. Let him talk. "She left yesterday," he whispered. "Packed her clothes, took the BMW, didn't even say goodbye. Just a text. 'Good luck with your antique, Mom.'" The words hung heavy. I didn't answer. Instead, I poured him a cup of coffee. Set it in front of him. The mug chipped on the rim. Henry's mug. He cradled it like warmth might fix him. "I don't deserve this. Not from you. Not from anyone." I looked at him for a long time. "No, but you'll learn." The night settled around us. The cicadas hummed. He sipped the bitter coffee in silence. And I let him. I walked into the courthouse at 9:00 sharp. No appointment, no fanfare. Just a folder under my arm and purpose in my step. The clerk didn't ask questions. Just slid the papers across the desk and handed me a pen. I signed fast. No hesitation, no ceremony. Just one last signature. The parcel was small, 6 acres by the creek, the ones Madeline wanted to convert into outdoor wellness pods. I gave it to a nonprofit farming school instead. Young hands, real soil, no branding deck, not to spite them. To prove there was still something worth growing. The woman from the nonprofit met me by the steps afterward. Wore jeans, no blazer. Her nails were cracked from real work. She thanked me 3 times. I just nodded. "Why now?" she asked. I didn't explain. I just said, "Because you'll respect it." That night, I walked the perimeter of the old barn, checked the doors, ran my fingers along the wood. Henry repaired himself. The wind picked up, cold, dry. Harvest season nearly gone. Ethan hadn't come back. He'd left the mug behind, washed it, dried it, set it on the kitchen rack like it belonged. Maybe it still did. Maybe someday he would too. But not now. I went to the desk, pulled out the drawer, and checked the envelope I'd taped there weeks ago. Still sealed, still safe. A copy of the deed. The LLC papers. The lien notice. A letter. Short, plain. My name at the bottom. If they ever tried again, that envelope would outlive them all. I poured one more cup of coffee and sat by the window watching the sky turn. Tomorrow, I'd plant garlic. Early for spring. Late for revenge. But right on time. I opened the door with my foot and stepped out onto the porch. The air was sharp. Dry. October, maybe November, who was counting anymore? I set the mug down first. Steam curled from it slow and thin. Still mine. White letters on black ceramic. The porch boards creaked under me, same as always. I sat. Pulled the flannel tighter around my arms. No one else was home. No cars in the driveway. No shouting about invoices or staging or social media metrics. Just birds somewhere in the distance rustling leaves, the hum of a fence wire, waking up with the sun. I sipped. The coffee was strong, a little bitter. I liked it that way. A squirrel darted across the yard, stopped near the woodpile, looked at me, then ran. Everything that mattered was quiet. Inside, the deeds sat in the top drawer, labeled, signed, recorded. The letters had stopped coming. The calls, too. Even Madeline's name had stopped appearing in Ethan's voice. The school had sent a thank you card. Handwritten. Dirt smudged in one corner. I kept it tucked behind the kitchen calendar. I rocked forward slightly in the chair. Let the legs scrape once on the planks. Still here. Still mine. I reached for the mug again. The warmth soaked into my palms. Solid. Real. The kind of thing no one could stage sell or repurpose. Just hold.